Kingsley Abuaji Jedu has apologized for the shortage and says government was working to address the challenges. Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, has told Parliament 42,710 Ghana cedis was received by the Commission from media houses for accreditation cards for the 2016 general elections. According to the EC chair, 42,713 was paid to printers to print the cards. And President Akufo-Addo has forwarded a petition presented by a group called Concerned Workers of the Electoral Commission to the Chief Justice. The group is calling for the impeachment of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, accusing her of being incompetent and autocratic. And the Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill and the Zongo Development Bill have been withdrawn from Parliament and expected to be relayed by the Attorney General. The Special Prosecutor and Zongo Development Bills were laid in Parliament on July 18. On judgment in the assault case involving the Abelemkpe branch manager of Mawako restaurant, Jihad Chaban, has been deferred to August 2nd following efforts at an out-of-court settlement. Jihad Chaban is standing trial for assaulting Evelyn Boachi, a caterer at the Mawako restaurant. CAF Vice President Kwesi Nyantakyi has defended the body's recent changes to the timing and schedule of the African Cup of Nations. The Ghana FA president, who also heads CAF's Reforms Committee, said suggestions CAF has pandered to European clubs is narrow-minded. He noted CAF will soon spell out modalities for dealing with new qualification processes and address some of the conflicts that the changes will trigger. Those were our major news highlights. Remember, we're live on our Facebook page and also streaming on 3news.com. You can also hear us on 3FM 92.7. Up next is the big one. Welcome back. Now, the minority in Parliament is asking for the official position of government on the Ameri deal, which was approved by Parliament in 2015. This follows an urgent motion filed by MP for Adansi Asokwa, Katie Hammond, asking Parliament to rescind the decision it took in the last Parliament.
MP for Adansi Asokwa, Katie Hammond, Tuesday filed an urgent motion asking Parliament to rescind its decision, which it made in 2015 by approving the Ameri deal with the government of Ghana. But a minority in Parliament thinks the path being taken by Katie Hammond is inappropriate. According to the minority leader Haruna Idrisu, the deal was approved in the last Parliament and that cannot be binding on the current Parliament.
We would want to know the official government position on the matter as the contract is in force. And the matter, if even Parliament took a decision, will have consequence on our energy generation, and matters relating to Dumso is coming back, and otherwise another economic consequence of paying back and compensating for investment relative to the operation of the contract. So
he asked Katie Hammond to go to court instead.
We are also as a loss whether a member of Parliament can just wake up, as disgruntled as a member may be, to seek to rescind a decision of a previous Parliament. Now, we want to know the particular standing orders that he is revoking, because we've looked at the only place in our standing orders where rescission is mentioned is around 93.
Meanwhile, Katie Hammond said he is an MP and Parliament is the appropriate place for him to ask for a rescission and not the courts.
In 2015, I, as a ranking member or the ranking member on energy, supported a motion to approve an agreement with a company called Ameri. Subsequent to that, something has come to my attention as a member of parliament. It's incumbent on me to let Parliament and the people of Ghana be aware of the facts. What is court got to do with that? I am not privy to the contract. I have no locus to go to court.
MP for Ejumako Enyan CM KSL Atuforsen said what the Adansi Asokwa MP is seeking to do is a breach of Article 108 of the Constitution.
There's going to be a potential charge as a result of rescission of the decision by Parliament, looking at the fact that an agreement has been signed between government of Ghana and that of a company. The contractor may ask for certain damages on the part of government, and if the contract is abrogated, there may be consequences of possible what we call the judgment debt and others. That will be a charge on the consolidated fund. So this will clearly breach Article 108 of the Constitution.
Right, let's speak with energy expert Kojo Poku. He's joining us on Skype now. Mr. Poku, good evening. We're grateful that you could join us. So this back and forth with the Ameri deal, which cost us $510 million. There have been issues with it from day one. From where you sit, how significant would you say this deal has been to the energy situation?
Well, it came in at a time when we were any little help. You know, the Ameri started operational, I think, sometime last year when we were scraping for any little generation that could augment what we had as in the country. So the Ameri came in at a time when it was very helpful. Whether taking the Ameri out would, because now there are other plans that have come on. So I don't think that the amount that Ameri brings, I'm sure the government will have done their mathematics and realize that, yes, you can take the Ameri off. I mean, the Akosombo is quite high, so the hydro is producing significant. There is a new company called Aska that has come on that is also doing about 200 megawatts. So I think they've managed to realize that, look, they can take the Ameri out at this point, and it would not be significant to take us to do so. But at the time when Ameri came in, it came in at a time when we needed it.
Right. So I know the discussion has always been whether or not to abrogate or review the Ameri deal. I'm asking this question on the back of the Addison Committee's recommendations to review or abrogate. But when we spoke to you at the time these discussions started, you didn't exactly think that abrogating the contract was the way forward. But let me ask you again, following all the developments that have gone on, do you think abrogating the contract is the way forward?
You can only abrogate if you find criminality. You see, we still haven't found that criminality, and nobody has come out. We've heard of some raids in the former minister's house. We've heard of a raid in the special assistant to the minister, which is Mr. Francis Jatta. We've heard of certain investigations going on, but because it's a contract that has been approved by Parliament. And it's very unfortunate that our brothers and sisters in the August House of Parliament rushes through some of these agreements and passes them. Now they want to go back and rescind it. I mean, most of these information that is in the public domain was still there. ASEP, from day one, has kicked against Ameri. They have provided all the information which is still available to Parliament, and at that time, nobody listened. No, the majority, that was minority then, supported the deal, and Parliament passed it. So for me, it is not about whether Parliament can rescind it. The most important part of this deal is for that investigation to be able to find criminality. At the point when there is criminality, then you can abrogate the deal. Until such time, it will be difficult.
Now, the minority now, which was in the majority when that decision was made, is now demanding that government makes its position clear on the Ameri deal. I mean, obviously, somebody like Katie Hammond, who is championing the rescission of the deal, is an MPP member of Parliament. But should what he is, the urgent motion he filed, compel government to now perhaps declare its position once and for all, so everybody knows clearly where government stands on this?
Government's position is quite clear. I don't know why they're asking that government should declare its position. Government's position is clear. The government in opposition and in government has, the Addison Committee came up with a report that says that, look, this MPP government believes that Ameri is 150 million overpriced, period. I don't know why everybody wants government to come back and say what. And I mean, it's been said over and over again that they have the document. There is a contract between Ameri and Metcalf. There's a contract between Ameri and government of Ghana. And the difference of those two contracts is 150 million. Government of Ghana thinks that they've been cheated under the Nana Akufo-Addo administration. So I don't know what other stance they want them to declare. It is very clear what the government, the Minister of Energy have said this over and over again, that they think that the Ameri deal is overpriced. So they are looking to either renegotiate it down to what it should be or abrogate it. But the abrogation is what the problem is. You can only abrogate a contract of that nature until you find a criminality where there was fraud, and with the fraud, you can now go ahead and say, look, this contract cannot stand. But until you find that criminality, it will be difficult. And the Addison Committee report did not find that. All the Addison Committee told us was that they've cited a contract that is cheaper than what the government is paying for. Bear in mind, we have not finished paying for the whole amount involved. We are still paying on a monthly basis. So we have to get to a point where we have to say, look, we are not going to pay anymore, come what may. But that is going to cause a problem because then the people can sue for judgment debts.
Right, Mr. Kojoboku, we're grateful for time. But before you go quickly, everybody, we all, from the narrative you're giving us, it's clear that Ameri was overpriced. A lot of civil society groups have raised this concern already. A deal which was signed as an emergency power agreement in February of 2015. Should we still stick with an agreement which is to supply emergency power agreement several months on when we're not in an emergency situation?
Well, it was an emergency power that was brought in that we did not pay for. We took it on a 5-year lease. So bear in mind, we did not have money to pay for those machines upfront, or we did not just ask them to bring it for us to use it, and when we are out of emergency, they'll take it back.
Right.
We bought it, but we bought it on a high purchase where we pay for it over a 5-year period. So the 5-year period is what we are still going through and paying for. Not a matter of it was emergency. Yes, it was emergency then. It might not be emergency now. But because we are paying.
Right, Mr. Kojoboku, we're grateful for your time. Kojoboku is an energy expert. He joined us there. I'm Stephen Ante. Remember that you can also hear us live on 3FM 92.7. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, says 42,710 Ghana cedis was received by the Commission from media houses for accreditation cards for the 2016 general elections. She says 42,713 was paid to printers to print the cards. She was briefing members of parliament on total amount collected from media representatives for covering the 2016 elections, as well as replacement of lost and misplaced voter ID cards.
Journalists who covered the 2016 general elections were charged 10 cedis each for accreditation, which attracted 42,710 cedis as total fees collected by the Electoral Commission.
We had 4,271 applications from interested media houses for accreditation. Out of that, the Commission charged a fee of 10 Ghana cedis per card. This covered the actual cost of printing the card, the lamination, the provision of tax, which was 8 Ghana cedis, exclusive of VAT and NHIL. That's what the printer charged. There were also 273 journalists, technicians, political party and candidates, representatives and observers who were accredited without charge.
She said 4,444 cards were issued and explained it was not the first time media houses were charged for accreditations. She said the Commission has all payment vouchers and receipts to show. On the cost of replacements of lost ID cards, the EC chair said the Commission from December 22 to July 24 has collected over 2.5 million cedis, but that money had not been expended.
She said they were charging 5 cedis. But the total amount of money she got, surprisingly, had some pesos. Is it what resulted in the net having pesos?
When we requested our account statements from Ghana Commercial Bank, just for this year alone, it ran into about 1,300 or so pages because of the 5 CD. Transactions. So it's difficult to compute and separate that. So it's easier to actually take out the filing fees for presidential candidates, the filing fees for parliamentary candidates, all the other items, subtract it, and then the figure you have represent the cost of the replacement of ID cards, because it's the most voluminous transaction, and it's difficult for you to add it all up separately. And so that is why you'd end up with a point.
When asked why the figures she mentioned were not captured in the Commission's budget estimates presented to Parliament, the EC chair said it was an oversight. The EC chair and other commissioners of the EC were expected to meet leadership of the House to discuss the rift between the chair and the other commissioners, but Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu described that meeting as unnecessary.
And the Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill and the Zongo Development Bills have been withdrawn from Parliament and expected to be relayed by the Attorney General.
The Office of the Special Prosecutor and Zongo Development Bills were laid in Parliament on July 18. The minority raised concerns the bills had not met the 14 days gazetting period, but the majority argued they were of urgent nature and did not need the 14 days mandatory days of gazetting. The Committee on Constitutional and Legal was therefore compelled to go back and determine whether the two bills qualified to be of urgent nature. On Tuesday, the committee presented its report indicating they were not of urgent nature and should be taken through the normal stages. Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu then argued that the Attorney General withdraws allow the bills to go through the 14 days gazetting period before relaying, but that was not taken by the Speaker. But on Wednesday, the First Deputy Speaker announced the bills had been withdrawn.
And the consignment of polio vaccines would arrive in Ghana on Tuesday, August 1st, after government made payment of $9.4 million to UNICEF. The polio vaccines expected this week delayed due to shipment challenges. Deputy Minister of Health Kingsley Abuaji-Jedu has apologized for the shortage and says government was working to address these challenges.
Mothers who visited weighing centers to have their babies vaccinated 2 weeks ago could not do so because of a general shortage of polio vaccines in the country. The Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Anthony Insiasari, who confirmed the shortage, said Ghana owed UNICEF, the international body that procures the vaccine across the globe. Deputy Minister of Health Kingsley Abuaji-Jedu says $9.4 million has been paid to UNICEF for the purchase of vaccines.
We have paid about 9.4 million United States dollars to them for our commitment in 2017 and for supply of the vaccines. However, what we call the legacy debts, about the 3.7 million that we inherited from the previous government, we are making efforts, and I'm expecting the processes to go through by the end of this week so that we'll also clear that.
The consignment, he noted, would last 6 months and government would work around the clock to ensure the country does not experience another shortage.
Actually, we made the payment some 2 weeks ago, and we're expecting, like I've said, we're expecting the vaccines this week. Unfortunately, due to the shipment challenges, we haven't gotten them. We have been assured that we are getting them early next week.
Meanwhile, the Greater Accra Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Linda Van Otu, is advising mothers to continue with other vaccines as they await the polio vaccines.
Past 9 years or so, we have not had polio, and the surveillance is still ongoing. Every time we look for it, and there's a target that we have to meet, that for every 100,000 we need to find at least one child within that age group. And that is being that the fact that one vaccine is not available doesn't mean that the whole schedule will not work. So they are encouraged to come for the other vaccines.
And the Minister of Education has issued a one-week ultimatum to all public tertiary institutions to submit their fees for approval. Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh is of the view without the approval by the ministry, government will not defend any institution in court should students seek legal redress.
The sector minister issued the ultimatum at the swearing-in of 3 governing councils of tertiary institutions in Accra. The institutions are the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, University of Cape Coast, and University of Development Studies. The minister was extremely disgusted about the huge fees charged by these tertiary institutions, which have occasionally affected the students' body. Again, he was worried that the public tertiary institutions have deliberately failed to submit fees to Parliament through the Education Ministry for approval. The situation has occasionally resulted in legal tussles between the student body and management. For these reasons, the Minister of Education has given the public institutions 1 week to submit fees for approval.
All public institutions in the country who are mandated to charge and levy and impose fees should submit it through Parliament for approval every year, especially if you are changing it. And it's better for the universities to do.
Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh was also disturbed about huge electricity bills paid by government. Currently, he has concluded discussions with the finance minister to roll out a policy of installing solar panels on all public schools.
I submitted to the Ministry of Education all our education establishments so that they can start rolling out a program of solar panels, biogas digesters, and what have you. Because that is the only way we can reduce the tariffs ECG has been threatening our universities with.
Again, he warned the newly sworn-in councils to seek government approval whenever contracts are being signed. According to the ministry, the University of Ghana alone in 2016 signed $250 million contract without Attorney General's advice. He explained that under his watch, such malpractices would not be countenanced.
When the United States government is calling, he calls the Minister of Education, the Minister of Finance, that they are going to cancel support to Ghana if we don't make sure that Legon effects or makes proper that agreement. It was a $64 million agreement, and in 10 years, Legon was going to pay $250 million.
On judgment in the assault case involving the Abelinkpe branch manager of Mawako restaurant, Jihad Chaban, has been deferred to August 2nd following efforts at an out-of-court settlement. Jihad Chaban is standing trial for assaulting Evelyn Boachi, a caterer at the Mawako restaurant.
Jihad Chaban, who is accused of dipping the face of Evelyn Boachi into blended pepper, was arraigned before the court on March 8 with 3 counts of charges: offensive conduct, assault, and causing harm. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. The incident, which happened on February 26 this year, had traveled a full trial, and the court was expected to deliver judgment on Wednesday, July 26. But in court, the magistrate Victoria Gansa indicated she had received documents covering the terms of the agreement reached between the 2 parties, hence her inability to deliver judgment. Counsel for Jihad, led by Ulio Demedero, told the media the caterer had agreed to an out-of-court settlement but was tight-lipped on the details.
I've said time and again that we, my clients, Mawako, want to put this behind them. They want to settle the matter. The girl wants to settle the matter. And I don't have the instructions to give the details of the settlement. When the time comes, we'll let you know the details.
The magistrate indicated though the civil aspect of the case could have been dealt with by the settlement, the criminal aspect lingers.
The magistrate at the Abeka District Court, Victoria Gansa, indicated that she only received the document concerning the terms of settlement on Monday, and there is the need for her to study the document vis-a-vis her judgment so that come the 2nd of August, she passes her judgment. From the Abeka District Court here in Accra, I am Selom Amenya for TV3 News.
And CAF Vice President Kwesi Nyantakyi has defended recent changes the Continental Football Governing Body made to the timing and schedule of the African Cup of Nations. The Ghana FA president, who also heads CAF's Reforms Committee, rejected suggestions that CAF has pandered to European clubs.
The scheduling should take care of that, so that if we have to do, if a Confederations Cup is taking place, for instance, in June, then we could do our African Cup in July to make sure they don't conflict.
What's your response to those who worry that more numbers could mean a drop in quality?
I totally disagree with them. We're going to have 8 more teams coming on board, and nobody will tell me that that 8 will be made up of less quality or mediocre teams. I believe that apart from the 16, you can still find top-level 8 teams to qualify to the African Cup of Nations.
My final question is, you're part of WhatsApp groups, and you would have noticed this, almost this disbelief among some people and suggestion that this was Africa pandering to Europe.
This time, the European clubs know that they will have access to their players, and the players will only go and play during the African Championship at the end of the season. And I think it's a big advantage for Africa. It will enhance the commercial value of our competitions, also give the players the opportunity to maximize their commercial interest in soccer, because they will be playing for their countries, and they also have the opportunity to play for their clubs. And I think that it's a win-win for both of us. This narrow argument that it will favor Europe, to me, is neither here nor there, because that argument has been around for a long time. We have all assessed the merits and demerits of it, and we have seen clearly where the merit is. We know that this is the best way Africa should go, and we know that this is what will bring more benefit to Africa in terms of revenue, in terms of patronage, in terms of interest, in terms of maximization of income, and so forth and so on.
And that's it for the news at 10. I'm Stephen Enti. Thank you very much for staying. And for those who tuned in to 92.73 FM, thank you very much for leaving your dial there. Good night.